Welcome to the All Hoops podcast. I'm your host, Steve Inman, and I'm joined by co-host and star producer Chris Brito. We have a huge show ahead of us today as the Knicks made another blockbuster deal. They have acquired Karl-Anthony Towns, the four-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA guy, for Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a future first-round pick. Chris, this came out of nowhere. We kind of been talking about a Towns for Randle swap for a few years. We didn't really love it. Here it is. It's here now. How are you and what do you think?
I think I need to take a moment to really appreciate everything that Julius brought to the Knicks. I think he brought an edge. I think he brought some stability and some form of star power to the Knicks when we lost out on Durant and we lost out on Kyrie Irving a few years ago. And really, this Knicks turnaround started with him. Without him, we're not where we are right now. So I think,
Yeah.
he had his things with against the fans and all that, but he was a good soldier. He was a great ambassador for the Knicks. And, you know, 2 days before the trade, he there was a basketball court at Earl Monroe's school named after Julius. Julius
Yeah,
spent
and
time.
we'll definitely get to Julius
Yeah.
Randle's legacy in New York soon. I want to hear your thoughts first on,
Well,
who won
I'm
this
gonna get
trade.
to it. I'm gonna get to it. All this to say, it's so devastating to see him go because, as good as a player he is, it just doesn't make sense. Uh, sizing, I guess, fit wise, Karl-Anthony Towns is a home run. Like no matter how you spin it, this Knicks front office is not emotional, and they keep showing signs of that. So I think I would grade it as a B plus, mostly because we match up even better against the Celtics. Like I can't think of any advantage that the Celtics do over the Knicks at the current moment. The only thing I feel that we lose out on is a little bit of the shooting that DiVincenzo brought and sort of that edge that he brought, as well as Julius Randle's edge. I mean, I think both of them are people who can really, um, those are some of our tough guys. So replacing it with Towns, who is not known for being a tough guy, I think is a problem. But we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I don't really seem to love this trade for either side. I don't really get the rationale from the Timberwolves point of view. Like obviously they wanted to get out of this money. They didn't love the fit with Towns and Gobert. Obviously, having two bigs on the court, neither one was a perfect guy, and they just didn't fit because you can't really play two bigs at the same time anymore. But Towns starting a 4-year supermax at $220 million. And for a team that's paying Rudy Gobert giant money, they're paying Anthony Edwards giant money, and they're paying McDaniels giant money. They just felt like they couldn't afford the fourth deal. Towns was the logical guy to move off here. But at the same time, you acquire Randall, who is a lot cheaper, but he's still a 30 million a year guy. You have to figure out a long-term future for. Um, I don't love the fit of Randall and Edwards. They're both ball stoppers who kind of need the ball in their hands. They're both very good players, obviously, but I think that's going to be an issue for them. Dante DiVincenzo fits everywhere, obviously. Shooter, he showed last year that he can be a crunch time playoff guy in the last 5 minutes of a game. Um, but I just don't really like this for Minnesota. I think they got worse. And then from the Knicks perspective, it's just a high risk, high reward move. I mean, Towns can be elite. Towns can show that he is an all NBA guy.
Mhm.
And I think his ceiling is higher than Randall's. He's a better shooter than Randall, but you're not asking him to be a power forward like he's been the last couple of years. You're asking him to be the rim protecting center in a Thibodeau defense. And we've already seen Tom Thibodeau and Towns fail together before, and they're both going to come out to media day this week and go, no, that was a long time ago. We patched things up. We really care about each other. And we're going to say, oh, everything's fine. Like Thibodeau hasn't changed. Thibodeau's never going to change. So it's really up
I
to
disagree with
Towns
that. I
to
disagree
change.
with that. He's I think that notion that Thibodeau hasn't shown growth, I think is like a very false narrative.
Where's the growth? In what way?
I mean, we've gone from a coach who was known for his defensive prowess into
Yeah.
one of the coaches who has, you know, they've essentially unlocked a really great offense with the team they had last year. Like, I mean, I think with Tibbs, it was more about the right pieces. And I think now with Towns, you have someone who can like at least unlock that part. Like this, like we're gonna see the best Knicks offense we've ever seen. I'm just not, I think with Tibbs, you'll see someone who I think he is someone who has changed over the time. Like he's even been a Knicks coach.
Where would you guess the Knicks ranked in points per game last year?
So are we talking after the OG trade or before?
The whole season.
I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be an accurate representation, but I'm gonna say like midway.
Yeah, they were 18th. They were slightly below average offensively.
But you got to remember, like before that OG trade, the Knicks offense was putrid, as we both know.
I mean, I don't, I
Like,
have never
like
seen any
that's
adjustments from Thibodeau. I've never seen
like
any
that's
adjustments.
like that's a factor too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a factor. They were definitely better with OG. At the same time, the point I was trying to make was that Towns is going to be the one that needs to adjust to Thibodeau. He needs to buy in to this Thibodeau system. He needs to do 100% effort on defense. And
Yeah,
if that works out, it's going to be a great trade for the Knicks. Um,
yeah,
do I expect that to happen? I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
this is year 10 of Towns, and we're still not really sure if he could be a winning player on a good team. Like he finally got a good team, and the first thing they do is get rid of him. So
I mean, he was pivotal in helping the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets, the world
yeah,
champion, the
no,
champion
he was
Nuggets.
important, for sure. And I think the big question we had going into this season before
Yeah,
this trade, besides from the Knicks center issues, was how is Julius Randle going to fit in, and how is Julius Randle going to play in playoff time? Because we've seen two playoff runs with Julius Randle, and both were very bad for Julius Randle. That question is gone now. It's
yeah,
gone. I mean, he
sure.
was as inefficient as any player in the game during those two playoff runs. Does that mean that was what he was going to be going forward?
Yeah.
We can't say that. But at the same time, we can say it was a question mark. And so those questions have been replaced with questions about Towns' fit with Tibbs. And I think that's a question that I feel more comfortable with going forward than I did with the Randall stuff. So overall, it's a trade where I think the Knicks now have a higher ceiling to go win it all.
Got it. Okay.
And the other thing is there's a draft pick involved too, right? It's a Pistons top 13 protected pick that is most likely just never going to convey unless the Pistons can make some progress, which we're not
Right.
holding our breath over. So it's really more or less a high second round pick,
Mhm.
Donte DiVincenzo and Julius Randle for Karl-Anthony Towns. The Knicks are clearly all in, right?
Yeah.
Like Towns is making big. We just gave OG Anunoby the largest contract in team history. Towns is about to start now the largest contract in team history. So
I mean, it does. I mean, the contract stuff definitely limits what the Knicks can do, but
yeah,
I'm also of the belief that like we're entering that new CBA deal where we're going to see a lot of contracts that look like Towns's deal. So, I mean, of course, it's a lot of money, and but you sort of need to spend money for like a premium player like Towns who like can space the floor. Like maybe Porzingis, maybe some other big guys can do it, but no one is maybe as efficient as Towns.
yeah, no, we're on the same page here. I think the only thing we disagree about, as always, is Tibbs. I think we're both on the same page with everything else. But
Yeah.
at the same time, how does this look offensively? We'll be telling. Do they take a big step up?
Yeah.
Obviously, Towns is a big upgrade offensively over Julius Randle in terms of the shooting, the spacing. But they do lose Donte, and we love Donte. Donte had one of the best playoff moments in Knicks history, but over the course of the regular season, where he wasn't really in the mix too much to start the year.
Oh, to
And
start
then
the year
as
for
the
sure.
season went on, he had a big role. And he winded up finishing as the Knicks all-time three-point leader in a season. And you're losing that and you're adding a guy in Towns who's good for 150 threes in a season on good shooting, which is important, but it's not the volume that Debo had. And so it's going to have to be McBride gets better. It's going to have to be Towns, shooting good from three. And they are probably going to be looking for a shooter, or they should be looking for a shooter basically from now until February.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm not really keen on contributions from Landry Shamet. I don't think he really adds anything.
No, I think that ship has sailed. I think that was an interesting guy. They had moved around to a lot of teams, 5, 6 years ago. Now I think he's just kind of hanging on.
I would have
I
preferred
think this
staying
does
with,
help him make the team, though.
right. I would have preferred keeping Mook, but it is what it is.
Yes, I know you're a big Morris guy. I liked Morris his first time here, but at the same time, it's been 4 years. The years have not been kind to Marcus Morris. And
Mhm.
so I can see them potentially bringing him back on another training camp deal if they find room, but he's not a guy I'd be depending on in a Knicks playoff rotation, to say the least.
Mhm.
So you were bringing up a little bit before with Julius Randle. He did a lot off the court here that goes unnoticed, but his legacy in New York now, he was here for a long time. I'll go first here. I think as the years go on, I think Julius Randle's legacy with the Knicks will be more fond than it was the last few months this year right now, because you look at what he did here. He made multiple All-Star teams, multiple All-NBA, and when Durant and Irving bolted the Knicks for Randle for Brooklyn, Randle was the consolation prize. And for him to be here on his own and slowly help this team go from bottom feeder, should they be tanking, to a playoff contender, he's going to deserve a lot of credit for that. And I think, at the end of the day, this is a guy who put up big numbers and was a big part in getting the team to multiple playoff series, and then was a key part in getting them a piece that could potentially win them the championship.
I think Julius Randle will be remembered as one of the best Knicks ever. And I don't think his accomplishments, kind of like similar to how Melo when he was here, I think he was maligned. I think as Melo was good when he was here, obviously, but he was always criticized for not having more success. I think Julius Randle, I think in the moment, similarly has from many fans who didn't like what his perceived selfishness and all that other stuff. But at the same time, he was, you know, a player who helped turn around the ship, no matter how you look at it. He had you know, uh, two All NBA appearances, multiple All-Star games. I think he's going to be remembered as one of the best Knicks ever. And it sounds like a controversial statement at the moment, but when the Knicks win a championship, I think he's going to be remembered very fondly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big point right there. If they win a championship because of this trade, you're gonna remember Julius even more fondly than you do right now. This is a guy who made two-time All NBA, as we said. He was the most improved player, three-time All-Star, and you just wonder, again, you're not gonna like this, but Thibodeau, he
You're
takes
obsessed with
Julius
Thibodeau,
Randle
man.
out,
Get
4
help.
minutes to go in a
Get
blowout
help.
game against the Heat at the Garden in January. He doesn't tear up his shoulder. Randle gets another crack in the postseason. They probably get past the Pacers with a healthy Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Do they say, "Hey, we're cool running this thing back," and instead now sweeping changes with the team? That was a very fateful day. We didn't know at the time whether you agree with Thibodeau keeping him in or not. It was a very fateful day, and that really changed a lot for this franchise going forward. For Julius in Minnesota, I don't love it. I don't love the fit with him and Gobert. I think, we love Anthony Edwards. We're always going to love Anthony Edwards. But he is also a ball stopper who needs the ball in his hand, and he's a crazy athlete, but he moves slow. He needs the ball. He takes time to decide on what he's going to do. Julius Randle's the same way. I don't really know how the two of them are going to fit together. And then you combine that with the fact that Julius is potential free agent at the end of the year, who's looking for that one last big contract. how is this going to play out in Minnesota?
I don't think they're going to resign him.
So, he's got the 30 million this year, and then he's got a player option for the following season at 20, 25, 26 at 30.9 million. So basically he's around 2 years, 59 million guaranteed. Everyone assumes he's going to turn that down and enter free agency, but like if he shows he can't fit in with Edwards, is he really going to get that bag? I'm not sure. He might have to pick up the player option if things don't go well. But you hope it goes well, obviously. He's still, plenty in his prime. He's only 29. He'll be 30 not till November. So we're hoping it goes well, and maybe it'll be a Knicks versus Julius Randle NBA Finals. How awesome would that be?
I feel like the Knicks maybe know something about his shoulder and they're letting on. I feel like they knew his, listen, he didn't have high value at the moment, but I think the perceived value of him returning and being a key piece of this Knicks contending rotation was going to be part of the factor in this whole like trade. So that's like a suspicion. There's nothing like nobody reporting that or anything like that. In part because there have been some athletes who have had that shoulder injury have not gotten back to what they were. So that's one. And then two, similar to what you're saying, I don't see the fit. I also think that maybe the Timberwolves wanted a contract that would at least at the very least like expire or in time for them to give big deals to Nas Reed, who
Yeah.
they really love in Minnesota.
And they got
So
him on an affordable deal. They did a good job there.
so I see this more as a play to get more money on the books more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because no, Julius Randle does not fit on that team. He doesn't. It just
It is a weird
he
decision coming
doesn't
off
he doesn't
arguably your best season ever, and
he
you have
doesn't
Edwards
sh
in his prime.
he
Like,
doesn't
don't really
shoot
break it up.
he doesn't shoot well. Um, and this, if anything, looks more like a deal to acquire DiVincenzo in a way because DiVincenzo does add a lot to this team. So listen, who knows? Um, that being said, similar to the point where I was making where Gobert went to Mini a few years ago, it was a deal that didn't make sense, but it
Yeah.
was a deal to help Anthony Edwards get to that next level, and I think this is what it is. The team is going to go as far as Anthony Edwards anyway, so I like it's a big deal. It's obviously a huge trade, and obviously you lose some of that spacing, but I don't think it matters in the end. It's Anthony Edwards going to run the show, so.
The trade to send Randall out reminds me a lot of the situation with Quickly for OG, where it was we like Quickly, we like him a lot, we'd like to re-sign him, but we're not really sure how he fits. And then we're just so far apart in contract talks that if we could move him for an upgrade, we would. And that's exactly how I feel like how they felt with Randall. We like him part of our future. We're not really sure how he fits where we just gave 200 million to OG who could also play the four. But at the same time, if we can move him for an upgrade, we would. And they found one, or at least they perceive they found one, and they're doing it. And we wish Julius the best of luck. We wish Donte the best of luck. We'll always have that what was that? What was it, game two against the Sixers with Donte, where he had the crazy three? Was that game two?
That was, yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah. And it just that was one of the cooler playoff moments I've ever seen in any of my favorite teams. So thank you to both of those guys. They were very good Knicks overall. All right, Chris, let's get to our final thoughts. Basically, not a lot here today, but Joel Embiid, who is as brutal as they come and as good as they come,
Mhm.
signed a supermax extension, 3 years and $193 million. How's that going to go for Philadelphia?
Um, Truth be told, I think it's a silly deal to make for someone who's always perpetually injured. But at the same time, what are you going to do if you're Philly? You're banking your future on him anyway. You have to give him a big deal. Like that's just how the game goes. Um, I don't know. I would have preferred maybe Philly waiting a little bit more, just and see maybe build this post Embiid future around Maxi, but you're mortgaging the future now on both those guys. So listen, that's fine by me. I mean, Embiid's not going to
It's
be healthy for a
scary.
lot of that contract.
You could make the case to me if we were, next offseason, we're talking about worst deals in the NBA. You might make the case that he's number one, depending on how this season goes. I mean, he's making 51 million this year, 55 million next year, and then the
Yeah.
193 million kicks in. So it's 5 years at around $300 million
Mm.
for Joel Embiid, who is again never healthy ever. So obviously they're all in like the Knicks. You win, doesn't really matter how the rest of that deal goes. But if they get bounced in the first round again to like the Knicks or somebody else, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a
I'd
disaster,
love to
especially if he's
know,
not healthy.
I'd love to know what the thinking is with on their behalf. Like, why couldn't you make this deal next season? Why?
I don't really get it. He obviously the Embiid camp must have been pushing for this for sure. Hey, like I only got 2 years left of my deal. I'm getting brittle. I need to get that one last payday, and they're trying to make him happy. And they I hope they did.
That's the Knicks front office would never go for that.
No, or maybe they would. We don't know. The NBA is very weird these days. Chris, anything else before we
It
wrap up the
is clear
show?
to me. It is clear to me that the Brunson is like the very top of that pecking order though. Like
Yeah.
um but I love that this Knicks front office doesn't make any emotional decisions anymore. This is like refreshing.
Yes, it is pretty cool to see. And again, they did what they wanted to do from the beginning. They got their star power. They have the stars here now. We didn't see it coming. We kind of thought they were being so patient, and then they were so aggressive. And this is probably what their plan was all along. And you got to give them credit for executing on it. And now we got to see if it's enough to win a championship. Should be the most fun season of Knicks basketball we've had probably in our lifetimes, or at least since we started watching the team and doing the show. Uh, that's going to do it for us here on the All Hoops podcast. Thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on Apple and Spotify. We'll be back next week or the next few weeks to talk more NBA action as news breaks this offseason.
Right. Bye everyone.